The old expression says you are what you eat. If that's true, then Americans probably figure we're all made of burgers, fries, and a Coke. And it's been that way for a long, long time.
The number one item ordered at a restaurant in 1978. Do you know what it was? Carbonated soft drink. That's the number one thing. Do you know what it was yesterday? Carbonated soft drinks. After all these years of change, matter of fact, the top three things were a hamburger, carbonated soft drink, and a fry. That's exactly what it is today, a hamburger, a carbonated soft drink, a fry. After all these years, we've talked about how we've moved so much, and we have moved. We've incorporated other things in our diet, but the truth of the matter is probably what's changed is the brand of carbonated soft drink, the bread that hamburger is on, the meat that might be on it, the toppings that may be on. But in the end, what did I order? A hamburger, a fry, and a soft drink.
That's Harry Balzer, Chief Industry Analyst for the NPD Group, a consumer marketing research firm that tracks a lot of our habits, including how we eat and why. Balzer's been following our food choices for 35 years, and he says most of us make assumptions about them that are completely wrong. For example, while it's true that Americans eat a lot of fast food, it's probably not as much as you think. Recently, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported that Americans get 11.5% of their calories from fast food restaurants.
There were some people who said, that's shocking. I thought it was higher. It's only 11%. There are a lot of people who talk about how we eat in this country. Most of them do it without any data. They do it from what they observe, what they see. They see a lot of coffee places. They think we're drinking more coffee. We're not drinking more coffee. The peak year for coffee consumption in this country was 1946. Not this year, not last year. But it's easy to talk about it because we all participate in the marketplace. But having data gives you a different perspective of who we really are.
Certainly, who we are is a lot different today than it was 60 years ago. Back then, we ate the vast majority of our meals at home, and going out to a restaurant was a rare treat. One thing was enough to change that.
The single greatest event that affected our eating habits in this country began right after World War II. It was when women started going into the workplace. And as more and more women entered the workplace, it was something like in 1950, 33% of all women over the age of 16 were employed. By the time we get to the year 2000, it was 60%. It close to doubled. No other fact has impacted the way Americans eat more than that.
Balzer says as women went to work outside the home, we began to consider ease of preparation as a much more important factor in our food choices.
The goal was, how can we make life easier? Because we're going to have to feed ourselves 4 or 5 times during the course of a day. Who is going to prepare that food? In the past, there was an answer to this. As the future moved, and in this future, who is going to prepare that food? It doesn't want to be us. I don't know who it's going to be, but I know this. I don't want it to be me. Who do I want it to be? I want it to be someone else. I want it to be the restaurant industry. And the restaurant industry grew by leaps and bounds during that 50-year period from 1950 to the year 2000. Since that period, we have had no growth in the restaurant industry on a per-person basis. It's been pretty flat, but yet I still have this great desire to have someone else do the cooking for me. I don't want to do the cooking. So where do we turn? We turn to the supermarket shelves, the processed food, the food that doesn't require cooking, bringing together a little assembly. Do we want this? Absolutely. There's no question. And that has been the driving force in our eating habits over the last 50 years.
The other major factor in our food choices is cost. You may think food is expensive, but Balzer says Americans spend less on food than anyone else. And we change our choices to make sure it stays that way.
The percent of our income that we give to food is lower than any other place that's been measured. It's about 9.5% of our income now goes to food. It never increases. In good times or bad times, we'll find ways to keep that either stable or declining as a percent of our income. So if our incomes go up, we spend more. But if our incomes are not going up, we look for changing the way we eat. And how will we do that? How can we manage our food budget? 1, don't use restaurants as often. 2, don't use animal proteins as often because they're more expensive. Still eat them, but don't eat them as often. You get more grain-based foods. We'll always be looking at those 2 things that are most important to our lives and the changes. How do we save money? And how do we make life easier?
Packaged foods have been the beneficiary. They're easy and less expensive than a meal out. But apparently our tolerance for preparation has dropped to almost nothing.
Do you know what the number one fastest growing food in the last 10 years in the American diet has been? I will tell you, it was yogurt. Nothing has grown faster in more American diets than yogurt. And your first blush at that is, geez, well, I can understand that's a healthy product. It's a good for you product. But it also is breakfast. It could be lunch. It could be supper, and it is the fastest growing dessert in America. It could be a snack. It could be the main dish. It could be the side dish, or it could be the dessert. Moms like it more, kids like it more, and even men like it more. Yogurt satisfies one thing very important to us. It's a very easy meal. You never have to cook yogurt. It's a wonderful item that says easy, time-saving, and I think it's healthier. I think it's better for me. It says everything you need to know about what America wants from its food suppliers. I want something that I don't have to cook, satisfies a lot of meals, can be a snack, can be any part of the meal, and I don't have to cook it. And it would be nice if it was healthier.
Health, however, is an attribute that's not all that important. It's not that we don't care, it's just that cost, ease, and familiarity trump everything else.
It would be nice if it was healthy. Oh, it would be great if it has other attributes, but it's got to be easy and it's got to be cheap. And I really don't want something that's too far afield from what I know. So I'm not looking to be Christopher Columbus and explore the world. I want to see the sight of the land. So give me a new way to give me the things that I like. Give me a new hamburger. Give me a new pizza. Give me a new soft drink. I love those things. I'm looking for the novelty of my food, but foods I already know.
What's more, Balzer says, we aren't too sure what health means in a food. Often it's a fad that changes from one year to the next.
The desire to have and lead a healthy life has not changed. That has always been present. It's how do you go about doing it that has changed. The truth of the matter is all these health issues, any one health issue, goes through a trend that rises and then falls. We're in the low-carb diet, and then we're not on the low-carb diet. We're trying to remove cholesterol, and then we're not concerned about cholesterol. Sodium becomes the issue, and then we're not concerned about sodium as much. But we're always looking for what's that latest way to deal with health, because the truth of the matter is this is a very difficult issue, and it doesn't show its results immediately. It takes a lifetime. This isn't like making life easier or making food cost cheaper. Time and money can be measured immediately. Health is different. Try going on a diet and see how long it is before you see measurable results. We tend to lose interest in these things, so we keep seeking out what's the next health issue. So the truth of the matter is, in my mind, we're always looking for health. We want to be healthy. We just don't know how to define this.
The most recent definition, Balzer says, is avoiding gluten. About 30% of people say they're trying to avoid gluten in their diets. But if so many people are interested enough in health to do that, why don't we eat our vegetables? Balzer says that's actually another myth.
Vegetables are eaten more in this country than only one other thing, sandwiches. The number 2 thing eaten in this country overall is a vegetable of some sort. Matter of fact, if I gave you the top 3 things this country eats in total as an end dish, it would be number 1, a sandwich. Now again, I'm not talking about in-home and away from home. I'm talking about everything. Number 1 would be a sandwich. Number 2 would be a vegetable as an end dish. And number 3 would be fruit. Those are the top 3 things consumed in this country. And how many times do we hear people saying, eat more fruits and vegetables? To which I have a little chuckle saying, eat more than what? Only sandwich is what I eat more of, and even that sandwich probably has some vegetable on it. So the truth is we eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. What we'd like is for those fruits and vegetables to be easier in the future and cheaper in the future. And if you can do that, I'll eat more.
It's also a myth that we eat 3 meals per day. 3 full meals, yes, but Balzer says most people actually eat about 5 times a day. You might call some of those a snack, but he says we're remarkably consistent in consuming about 15 items per day. With every one, we're making decisions based on certain needs and attributes, and often taste and health are far down on the list. Our production director is Sean Waldron. I'm Nancy Benson.
Sarcoidosis is a condition that prompts the immune system to go into overdrive. When this occurs, clumps of cells called granulomas may form on virtually any organ, most commonly the lungs and lymph nodes. When granulomas become too numerous, they can interfere with the organ's function, according to pulmonologist Dr. Doreen Adrizzo-Harris of New York University.
With good medical care, most cases of sarcoidosis are not severe and do not cause lasting damage to the body. However, personalized treatment may be needed. It's important to know all of your options. Asking questions such as the Sarcoid 5 can help you work with your doctor to create the plan that's right for you.
Dr. Adrizzo-Harris says the Chest Foundation and Foundation for Sarcoidosis Research have created Sarcoidosis, Seek Answers, Inspire Results, a campaign to help patients understand the condition and their options. For free downloadable information, including the Sarcoid 5, visit chestnet.org/sarcoid. That's chestnet.org/sarcoid.
When the leading antihistamine and Nasacort go nose to nose, Nasacort wins, stopping more of the chemical responses that can cause your nasal allergy symptoms. And when you stop more causes, you get 24-hour relief from sneezing, an itchy runny nose, even congestion. It's prescription strength medicine available over the counter. Nasacort Allergy 24-hour. Stops more of what makes you miserable. Use as directed.